and I got our book up. So I'm going to get our book up and running. Hey, Dove, good morning. All right, we're live on YouTube. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Karen and Mickey, and I will and I got our book up. So I got the cat at the door. I hear that. So might have to run down and let a cat in. But um, anyways, turning it over to you, Mickey and Karen.
I'm not seeing the book.
It's not up yet. I'm getting
Oh,
it.
okay.
Yeah, it's one of the many steps of, there we go.
There.
And I think, I don't know, I marked it here and highlighted it here because I think this is where we left off. So there we are.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Karen, Lynn, Mickey, Dove, and everyone listening. Karen, would you like to pray us in?
I would love to pray us in. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Just settle back, relax, take a breath. And remember, I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent Him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do because He who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever He wishes, knowing He goes there with me. I will be healed as I let Him teach me to heal. Amen.
Amen. So we had ended it right before sin, guilt, and fear, but Karen, you said that you wanted to go back over this Friday, the world of guilt, the two levels, because you said there's a lot of confusion with course students and those two levels. So do you
Yeah.
know where you wanted to start? Because that's chapter one, the dynamics of the ego.
Yeah, I think right back towards the bottom where it says the ambivalence right there. The ambivalence in the world of nature reflects our experience of this world. And then he tells us the course, therefore, can be understood at two levels.
Sure. So would you like me to start reading there then?
Sure, thank you.
Okay. All right.
So
So
Lynn, it's back one page from where we are on the screen. There we go.
yeah. Okay. So we're reading Forgiveness in Jesus, the Meeting Place of A Course in Miracles and Christianity by Kenneth Wapnick, PhD. And so we're going to go back over a the couple last paragraphs from last week. This ambivalence in the world of nature reflects our experience of this world, leading the Course to state that, quote, no love in this world is without this ambivalence, end quote. And that's from the text, chapter 4, 3, 4, and 6. The Course, therefore, can be understood on two levels, each reflecting a different emphasis in how we approach the world and the body. The first level embraces this larger metaphysical context we have been describing. Here, the world is seen as illusionary, having no existence beyond the mind that thought it. The guilt that arises from this mistaken belief is shared by all people and is inherent to living in a body, the symbol of this ego belief. All our personal experiences of sin, guilt, and fear find their root in this deepest layer of our unconscious, buried beneath the layers of defense the ego has used to protect itself. The second level relates to this world where we believe we are. Here, the world and body, though illusionary, are neutral. quote, my body is a wholly neutral thing, end quote, from the workbook, page 294, and can serve either the ego's purpose or God's. This level is the principal focus of this book, for it is here that forgiveness is directly applicable. By forgiving the layers of guilt in our personal lives, we are able finally to undo the original error of guilt upon which rests not only our personal world of pain and suffering, but the whole phenomenal world as well. So I guess that's the workbook, I guess lesson 294. But I really like where Ken says that this on the second level, he says it relates to the principal focus of this book that he wrote and makes forgiveness directly applicable. So he's saying that, so this book is really about bringing forgiveness into application in your life. And that would be the second level. And then you're undoing the layers of guilt. So you have to go through it. You have to look at it. You have to step back. You have to take Jesus's hand or the Holy Spirit. And it's a process, and it's a gentle process, slow and steady, like the tortoise. So would anyone like to comment on this? I see Mickey's hands up. So Mickey and then Karen, please go ahead.
Karen, you go first.
Okay. Thanks, Mickey. Thanks, Michale. Yeah, I love that. And I love the practical nature of level two. And he says it relates to the world where we believe we are. So we always start there. We always start where we are. And, it reminds me of the quote that Dove recently sent me that Ken says, if you are kind to all, that is A Course in Miracles. You don't need the fancy schmancy metaphysics. So the metaphysics, which is the level of, everything is 100% illusion, basically. It's good to know that all the things that we know of the metaphysical, but it's also not practical and it's not helpful most of the time, especially in everyday situations. I wanted to read what I have beautifully that Ken wrote, or actually I may have heard this. This was many, many years ago. I wrote this. Might have been on a lecture that he said once. It's on level one and level two. So he basically says, it's very simple. He says, level one is the metaphysical, that of heaven. There is only truth or reality. And whatever is not that, namely everything that the ego has made as a defense against the truth, is false. So nothing here is real, only our thoughts in the mind of God. But then the level two, which is the practical, he says that of the world that we currently believe we are in. However, it's not helpful to teach or preach or change anyone, or to tell them, for example, it's all an illusion, so why are you crying? But we need to meet them where they are and do our best to be truly helpful. It is helpful to be normal and to do the things that everyone else is doing, unless our not being normal is not increasing separation or specialness in our minds, in which case we follow our inner guide. So this is, to me, just perfect. And there are some that, some areas in the course where he actually talks about level confusion. One is chapter 2, healing as a release from fear. He talks about it specifically there. He talks about it in Miracle Principle 23. Miracle Principle. I mean, Miracle Principle 23 is the very beginning of the course. So this is actually the first place he talks about level confusion. And Miracle Principle 23 is miracles rearrange perception and place all levels in true perspective. This is healing because sickness comes from confusing the levels. So it's always remembering that, the sickness is in the mind, and it's the mind that needs to be healed. And that is where the forgiveness comes in. And that is what's so great about reading this book, because it's teaching us that there's nothing, well, it's teaching me what I'm learning here, I'm experiencing is that there's nothing outside of my mind that has power over me to upset me or take away my peace of mind unless I give it power. It's my mind that is the cause and not the body. So and then there's more on it about perception and knowledge. Knowledge is more like a level 1 and perception is a level 2. There's a lot in the course about that. Um, but other than that, unless anybody wants to read anything from the course on level confusion, that's pretty much all I have on it. Thanks.
Thank you, Karen, for that. And that was really good. And Mickey, would you like to go ahead now?
Well, Karen pretty much covered everything I was going to say, but went into it much more deeply. I was just going to say level 1 is knowledge. It is our direct communication with God. It's that connection that we have, and where where everything that is a fact, that with a capital F, that. And level 2 is bringing it down into the world of form and thinking that we can apply level 1. And that's what level confusion is about, is it's thinking that we can apply level 1 within level 2. And that's where a lot of people get confused, I think. That sorry. Seems like every time I start really getting to understand something and try and communicate it, my voice just totally clamps up. Anyway, that's my take on level 1 and level 2 and the confusion between the two. Anytime we try and bring level 1 into level 2, into the world of form, and try and mess with the level of form, trying to make it better, fix it, that's level confusion. And I think that's as simple as it gets. And that's all I got.
Thank you, Mickey. Thank you, Karen, for that. Yeah, I like in the last paragraph where Ken says, by forgiving the layers of guilt in our personal lives, we are able finally to undo the original error of guilt, upon which rests not only our personal world of pain and suffering, but the whole phenomenal world as well. And I remember in Ken saying, and Jeffrey Seibert, who gives his classes once a week, he says, you're really just watching a rerun that's already played out. So it's undoing the layers, but it finally comes to undoing the original error of guilt, which brought on this whole separation and illusionary world. So would anyone else like to comment? I see Karen's hand is up. Please go ahead, Karen.
Yeah, exactly. And just to add to that, the guilt is it's that's what really the guilt is. It stems from that belief, that original, separation, the belief that we separated from God. And I almost forgot in the manual in section 5, in the second part, there's 3 parts. This really reminds me of level confusion. He says that the world as you perceive it depends on the body being the decision maker. So that's level confusion. That is the body being the decision maker, thinking that it's actually the brain. That's the way I take it. Like it's the brain that makes the decision when it's really the decisions that we make with the Holy Spirit, they're outside of time. And that is a miracle. The linear time that we're going to be talking about here is the sin, guilt, and fear. That is all of the ego. Actually, it's a really short paragraph. I'm just going to go to it really quick. It's in the manual for teachers, section 5. It's called the shift in perception. And it's paragraph 1. So he says, healing must occur in exact proportion to which the valueness of sickness is recognized. One need but say, there is no gain at all to me in this, and he is healed. But to say this, one first must recognize certain facts. First, it is obvious that the decisions are of the mind, not of the body. If sickness is but a faulty problem-solving approach, it is a decision. And if it is a decision, it is the mind and not the body that makes it. The resistance to recognizing this is enormous because the existence of the world as you perceive it depends on the body being the decision maker. Terms like instincts, reflexes, and the like represent attempts to endow the body with non-mental motivators. Actually, such terms merely state or describe the problem. They do not answer it. So it's really remembering and recognizing that all sickness is of the mind, and only and always all healing occurs in the mind and not the body. So that's the whole point of forgiveness for me. It's recognizing that once my mind is healed and once I'm at peace, my mind is healed, and it does not matter what my body is going through, what someone may be doing that seems like in the world right now, we have a lot of controversy going on. And being at peace, regardless of everything that's going on, is a healed mind. It doesn't matter really what's going on. It's the mind that needs to be healed, not the world, not the body, not the person. Thanks.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah, that's so true. It's being at peace regardless of what's going on in the outer circumstances of what you're viewing within the script. So thank you. Would anyone else like to comment before we go on to sin, guilt, and fear? No? Okay. Then I'll go ahead and start reading the next on sin, guilt, and fear. We return now to the world of guilt, which is part of our personal experience. Accompanying these guilt feelings of abject failure and self-deprivation are those of being utterly helpless in a world that threatens this weakened and damaged image of ourselves. We can appreciate this experience by looking at the beginnings of human life. Freud and the psychoanalysis have contributed greatly to our understanding of how far back in our lives these feelings of deprivation, bodily mutilation, and worthlessness do actually go. In fact, the analyst Otto Rank placed great emphasis in his early work on the significance of the birth trauma in the etiology of all neurosis. So I'm going to go ahead and, if it's okay with you, Karen, and read the next paragraph. The next two paragraphs seem to go along with that, if that's okay with you, then. Until the moment of birth, the fetus has little or no awareness of itself as a separate being. It does not desire, since its basic psychological needs are instantly met. In many respects, life in the womb is similar to the state of paradise described in the second chapter of Genesis, where Adam wanted for nothing, all having been given by God, reflecting what the Course refers to as the principle of abundance. In a state without lack, there can be no sense of separation or, quotation, otherness, end quote. Scripture says of Adam and Eve before the fall that they stood naked, but, quote, felt no shame in front of each other, end quote. And that's from Genesis 2:25. And Ken at the end says all biblical quotations are from the Jerusalem Bible 1968 edition, unless otherwise noted. There was no shame or guilt, for they had not yet committed the act of separation. This pre-separation state can be somewhat likened to the fetus life at one with its mother and at one with its world. At birth, all this is changed in an action analogous to the expulsion from the Garden of Eden. The infant is suddenly expelled from its paradise into a world of separation. For the first time, it becomes painfully aware of having needs which are not immediately met, and sometimes are not met at all. This traumatic experience of separation, which guilt encompasses, leaves us feeling vulnerable and inadequate to meet our needs. The terror this induces remains with us. On some level, throughout our life, the real source of the, quote, birth trauma, end quote, however, lies in its reminder of the original separation, which is the root of all guilt and fear. So this is really interesting how Ken brings up the birth trauma, because in the recent class that Jeffrey Cyber is going through, which is going to be going through to July on death and dying, Ken brings up the birth trauma and how the infant cries. I mean, and they, even in the olden days, used to a little bit smack the infant so that it would cry. I mean, not only does it help with bringing the fluid, the cry out of the lungs, but it's also, it's crying because he's referring in this paragraph here, in these paragraphs, about it being in paradise within its mother's womb. And now it's coming into a world of separation. And it feels that separation and being thrown out of paradise. But, their life does always provide for your needs. It's the wantings that you have to be careful about. And so also on the human body, there's the breasts. And when you lay the infant upon the mother and the breasts, and it turns its head to the side, it hears the heartbeat, and then it suckles on the breasts. So in that respect, it goes back to being into paradise, because it hears the heartbeat that it heard within the womb of its mother. So that's kind of how nature made it, to where it would then be reassuring and comforting to it, which is a form of coming from a reflection of love. So it's really interesting about the birth trauma. And then Marcus Ray, who's uh, gives classes on A Course in Miracles, his wife, Sandra Ray, who's really into the Course in Miracles too, she does the whole thing and takes you back into the birth trauma, which Ken brought up about Freud going back, that it's very helpful to go for some people to go back to that original birth trauma and then of being expelled out of paradise. So would anyone like to comment on this? Oh, Dove says Sandra is an old friend. Yeah, she's wonderful. And so is Marcus Ray. Go ahead, Karen. Thank you.
Dov, do you want to share anything first?
Yeah, I just want to say, Sandra, I met Sandra, I'm talking way before the Course in Miracles. She was the original person, along with another guy, who started rebirthing, and I became a certified rebirther in 19, I don't know, something like 76, 77. Actually, that was only a year before the Course. And Sandra started a thing called uh, the Universal Dating Service. It was a workshop which I took in February of 77, and it was how to find the right person for you. It's like find your soulmate, and believe it or not, you create your soulmate from things that you want. And I met Suzanne literally 3 months later in July of 3 or 4 months later in July of 77. That's how I met Suzanne. That's all.
Wow.
That's great.
Yeah, I tried to get Sandra and Marcus on John Monday, but John says, "Well, tell him to send me a video." So it just never happened. But I did my best. I really think they have something to offer that would be good for John.
I agree. I don't know them like Michale does, but Michale introduced me to one of his videos and it was very good. It's very, very good. He's very, very well versed on the course and knowledgeable and helpful, very helpful in what he shares.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michale, for everything you shared. I loved everything you shared. And, it also reminds me, just for me personally, and I know many people, like to sleep in the fetal position. It's like a form of comfort. And it's like that pre-separation feeling, of just being just in the womb again, you're just so comfortable. You're in that very safe space, and that's why I think I went through so much trauma after my spine surgery, because I couldn't even get comfortable laying on my back, let alone on my side, let alone fetal position. I went through a lot of physical stuff that really kind of forced me to go back to the mind. But I also love what you shared about the baby and the heartbeat. Oh, that's so beautiful. And Also, I think for just in life in general, I know women who have gotten abortions and feel a deep, deep sense of guilt. And they feel like they murdered, their baby. And some really turned into serious drug addicts and alcoholics because of it. So there's definitely something to this birth trauma and many, many aspects of it. And the Course in Miracles also does talk about the pre-separation in chapter 2 in the origins of separation. Paragraph 3, he says the Garden of Eden, or the pre-separation condition, was a state of mind in which nothing was needed. When Adam listened to the lies of the serpent, quote unquote, all he heard was untruth. You do not have to continue to believe what is not true unless you choose to do so. All that can literally disappear in the twinkling of an eye because it is merely a misperception. What is seen in dreams seems to be very real. Yet the Bible says that a deep sleep fell upon Adam, and nowhere is there a reference to his waking up. The world has not yet experienced any comprehensive reawakening or rebirth. Such a rebirth is possible as long as you continue to project or miscreate. It still remains within you, however, to extend as God extended his spirit to you. It still remains within you, however, to extend as God extended his spirit to you. Yes. In reality, this is your only choice because your free will was given you for your joy in creating the perfect. So, yeah, I really love this. And it kind of even reminds me of level confusion a little bit because the truth is we never separated from God. And the belief that we separated from God is what's causing all our problems here and all our belief in differences and all our comparisons and all of the world wars and the wars in our mind that are created with friendships and whatever. We can go on and on about that. But I also love that, the pre-separation was a state of mind, a state of mind. So knowing that it is the level of the mind, that if we can, truly join at the level of the mind, we aren't separate anymore, and it's a daily moment to moment practice. And I love where he says that when Adam listened to the lies of the serpent, and that is representing the ego, that we don't have to believe it. We don't have to believe these thoughts. So the pre-separation is just a state of mind. And I think that's very, very helpful and hopeful. Thanks.
Thank you, Karen. I love where you said that the pre-separation is a state of mind. And I love how Ken brings this up of the expulsion, the separation from paradise and the womb, being inside the womb, because Ken always goes back to telling us that it's an outside picture of an inner condition. So this whole expulsion from paradise, from the Garden of Eden, is an outside picture of an inner condition because it's all coming from the mind. So the whole birth trauma is an outside picture of an inner condition. So, but like I had said, life always provides for your needs. So there's the heartbeat when the baby, suckles the breast and it lays its ear against the mother's chest. It's reassuring. We always have within this script, within this dream, we always have the reflection of love. It's always there. It's always calling us, it's always calling us back. So to you could say, like, being in the womb without really any needs. So would anyone else like to comment on this before we go into the next paragraph? No? Okay, then I'll go ahead and read. Okay. Our bodies, which come to symbolize this state of separation, thus also symbolize the guilt of our sinfulness, and this results in the shame associated with our person and with certain bodily functions. One sees in our culture the strong reactions against this shame in the attempts to deny our self-disgust by making the body attractive. The huge success of the cosmetic industry is the result of this reaction. When we identify with our physical selves, the pain our bodies inevitably undergo, thus unconsciously, becomes the punishment we believe is deserved. for our sinfulness. A vicious circle is established. The body's fragility witnesses to our sinfulness, which causes us to identify with the body even more strongly as we feel the need to protect it or make it attractive. And, I've always thought, they go with a lot of times in the modeling industry, really young girls, and then they portray these girls within the magazines as that's what everyone's supposed to look like or identify with. And I always thought, why don't they have women of gray hair there and show the beauty of getting older, the wisdom? Because in ancient cultures, it was you went to the elders, you didn't have a court system. You went to the elders for your issues. It was these women with the gray hair that were the ones that were revered as those of wisdom. And that's really where true beauty lies, is the wisdom and the reflection of love. So, yeah, our society has it where everything's for the youth and not actually for the beauty and the wisdom as you age and you've accumulated your knowledge and you have gone through mistakes that you can share with others and those that are younger. So, would anyone like to comment on this paragraph on making the body attractive and that the body symbolized the state of separation and the guilt? Karen, please go ahead.
Yeah, I know I experienced some depression after my spine surgery and still do sometimes because of the physical ramifications from that surgery, and it's really identifying with the body. If I didn't identify with the body, I wouldn't get depressed over it. So it takes that practice and that recognizing that I am not upset because of my body. I'm upset because of the decision that I'm making has nothing to do with my body. So it's always bringing that awareness back to my mind. And the other thing I wanted to say was what you shared, Michale. I call you Michale, not Mickey. It's so funny. Um, Pamela Anderson, I don't know if anyone's seen her in the news lately, but she is au naturel these days. I mean, I think she may still color her hair, but she wears no makeup anymore. And she looks gorgeous without it. She looks so natural and beautiful. She doesn't need it. And so she just feels much more comfortable and natural without it. And it's an example to Hollywood because really Hollywood is all about the glitz and the glamour and the plastic and the big lips and the big butts and all that stuff, right? So yeah, Pamela Anderson is aging gracefully without makeup. Thanks.
Thank you, Karen. That's true, and it's nice. I'm proud of Pamela Anderson for that. And Dove has his hand up, so please go ahead, Dove.
Yeah, it's a continuation of what Karen is saying. That you ask, why do they use these very young girls? Why not use older? I mean, coming from a Madison Avenue way of looking at things, in this world, the idea of I put the words up, being ingenue, innocence, especially in a world that's so full of guilt, the idea of virginity, innocence, no, just new. Everyone wants to be innocent and new and young. And so I just wanted to share on that. That goes along with Pamela Anderson. I mean, basically, she's back to being natural. The cover up, the cosmetics, obviously, is not natural. Big lips, lipstick, whatever. Uh, uh, that's like an added on thing. But people want to return to that very natural, innocent self. That's my Madison Avenue background. I did take Madison Avenue uh, advertising courses, coming from NYU in New York. Madison Avenue is a big topic. Um, and just want to mention on the Garden of Eden, getting back to that again. Just keep in mind that they were picking from the tree of knowledge, you know. So after they denied true knowledge, which is really what God is, true knowledge. So after they denied God, they went to the forbidden fruit to get the knowledge that ego represents. Said, "Oh, I'll give you everything and tell you everything, and you'll get to know the meaning of everything." Isn't that wonderful? That's why the course starts off with "Nothing I see here means anything." And just in case you think it means something, then you're the one who's giving all the meaning to it. You gotta laugh. That's it. Mickey?
Thank you, Dov. Go ahead, Mickey. That was great. Thank you, Dov.
Thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to expand a little bit on what Dove was talking about because there was one word that he didn't use that kind of blared in my mind, the innocence, and I can't remember the other word that Dove used, but the one that came to my mind was uncorrupted. And that's what our whole thing is about, that we were there in perfection, and we decided, oh, what if there's more than everything, and split off, created the world, created these bodies that from the minute we're born start dying and become corrupted, and everything has been altered from this feeling of perfection. And and that's what that whole industry is about. I studied at the School of Visual Arts in New York, and the whole and went on trips to advertising agencies on Madison Avenue, and their whole bit is, how can we make people feel like they have been corrupted, like they are ugly, like they lack something, in order to sell them this product that's going to make them feel better about themselves. And any advertisement that you see on TV, think you're a little too fat? Take this. Think you've got too many wrinkles? Put this on. Think your lips aren't bright enough? Use our lipstick. It goes on and on. And it's not just women, it's men too. Feel stronger, feel more powerful. And it all has to do with that feeling of lack that we have because we're separated from God. So there you go. Thanks.
Thank you, Mickey. That was great. Yeah, it all comes from the original feeling of feeling separated. That was really good. And I see Karen's hand is up. So please go ahead, Karen.
Yeah, that was awesome, Mickey. And now I almost forgot what I was going to say. I was so intent listening to you. Yeah, what is it? What did I want to say? I forgot. It had to do with, oh yeah. So yeah, it's definitely that sense of separation from God. It all stems from that and the scarcity principle. And what's coming up for me is just that identification with the body, that how strong it is, and why Ken drills to us that this is not easy. This is not easy. If you think it's easy, you're not paying attention. It's exactly what he says. If you think this is easy, you are not paying attention. We are so identified with our body, and I can speak with everyone here, or you won't be here. You wouldn't be here if you weren't in a body. It takes a lot of discipline, a lot of vigilance, a lot of practice to bring the awareness back to the mind, because it can really affect the mind, the brain, the emotions, everything when we're attached to this body. And we talked about that last week of losing a body part, losing a body part, going through that process of grief and of feeling, our attachments all have to do with this body. So it's not denying the body, it's an unworthy form of denial, but it's recognizing that we all understand that it's not the truth of who we are. And that's where it starts, understanding that. And for me, it's letting go of the attachment to the point where it doesn't affect my peace of mind. Thanks.
Thank you, Karen, for that. That was great. Yeah. And to not allow it to affect your peace of mind. That's so important to remain at peace. So, would anyone else like to comment? No? Okay. Then I'll go ahead and read the next paragraph. The normal developmental process from birth to death consists of learning to cope with the harsh realities of a separated life in a world experienced as hostile and threatening. We all more or less adjust to it, but it is an adjustment to a situation that at its core is one of terror, lest our defenses break down, thrusting us back upon our feelings of helpless inadequacy. We all evolve our own particular form of defensive adaptation to the world, learning to survive by taking various precautionary steps to ensure our physical and psychological safety and comfort. Such survival concerns are inevitable once we identify with this separated self of the ego, and they form the central theme of the ego's world. So he's talking about what everyone considers normal in the state of separation from birth to death consists of learning to cope with the harsh realities of a separated life in a world experienced as hostile and threatening. And you can see that even if you ever watch the animal shows or the nature shows, how even the little babies, they're preyed upon, to separate. They will stalk the mother with her newborn calf and stalk to get and separate the calf from the mother so that they can get to the calf. And it's sad. It's sad. It's a harsh reality and it's hostile. So would anyone like to, and we've considered this normal. We just look at all of this at this as normal. I mean, when you really think about it, it's like, what kind of God would make this? Thank you. Karen, go ahead.
Before Karen comes on, I just wanted to just say something to what you just said. It sounded like you were talking about farmers and ranchers because that's what they do. um, Talking about stalking the mother and taking the baby and all that. We call that veal. Just anyway, I'll let Karen talk.
Yeah, this is cannibalism we were talking about last week. But what's also interesting in those animal shows, Michele, is the female lions are the bravest. The lionesses are much braver than the male lion. Everyone says the male lion is the king of the jungle. In my opinion, it's the female lion. Um, when her babies are born, her cubs are born, she'll protect them. She'll fight a male lion till her to her death to protect her babies. And usually the male lion will, walk away because she can be so vicious. But what happens is if the male lion that gets her pregnant leaves her, which they normally do, and another male lion comes along, he will kill her babies. He will kill her babies to mate with her again because he doesn't want cubs that aren't his. So she has to deal with that. And then actually have mate with him after that and have another pride. It's really very, it was really difficult for me to watch at first because I thought, oh my God, like how, but some of the lionesses were so fierce that they fought, literally fought off the male lion, like vicious. When it comes to my cubs, don't, when it comes to my kids, don't play, women don't play. So you just brought that up for me because the jungle is definitely a jungle. It's definitely a dog eat dog world out there in this world. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. And yeah, and Ken has often remarked, does anyone ever question that, could God make such a world? Does anyone ever question what kind of God is this? Would have to be a cruel God. So, Mickey, go ahead.
Yeah, this is a world, I was listening to the Ken lecture that Prudence has been playing early in the mornings, and he was talking about how there's absolutely nothing in this world that does not feed off of something else in order to survive. We can't survive without food. Even the animals that only eat plants, they're sentient beings as well. They're being killed in order for the cow to live. It has to eat the grass. Um, in order for the grass to live, it's got to consume the microbiomes in the soil. There's nothing in, like you said, Michele, there isn't anything here. God would never make a world where everything has to die in order for us or anything else to survive. So, yeah, how can we say, uh, now that we've looked at it in the course, I got to laugh at people who say, oh, God made this beautiful world for us to live in. How could you think that? It isn't a beautiful world. Yeah, it might look pretty. There are pretty aspects to it, but it's pretty much a skeleton that we put a bunch of lipstick on. Thanks.
Thank you, Mickey. Yeah, and Karen wrote in the chat, and then the worms eat the body after the body dies. So I mean,
Yeah, it's just a
it's
cycle
continuous.
over and over.
It's continuous. Yeah, Florian, go ahead, please.
Good morning, everybody. Well, as I'm listening to you speak here, we can definitely say that these things are, mean and cruel as far as our analyzing them with the ego. But I guess for me, it comes back to the fact that beyond all of these seeming images and concepts that really are an aspect of imagination, beyond all of it is the one life, and eternal life cannot be destroyed. So we can go back to what Jesus tells us, that nothing real can be threatened and nothing unreal exists. And that, I guess, is our job to recognize as a son of God that we're dreaming. And in that acceptance of the atonement for ourselves, we're identifying with the truth, the reality that can never be destroyed. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Gloria. And that's so true, to remember that we're dreaming. And so we're dreaming of this separation. And then we made this of where it's, eat and devour and all the needs. It's a cycle. It's a cycle, and it's a cycle that never gets filled up. So Karen, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you, Glorian. And yeah, that's what we were just talking about in our reading, the pre-separation. And in the pre-separation, it was a state of mind in which nothing was needed because there was no separation from God. So nothing was believed when Adam listened to the serpent, the lies of the serpent. All he heard was untruth. It was until that point that we believed that we separated from God. And all we have to do is go back to the truth and go back to that, I accept the atonement for myself. As Gloria said, that's the answer to everything. And it is a moment to moment practice. So thank you. Thank you, Gloria.
Thank you, Gloria, and thank you, Karen. Thank you, Mickey, and thank you, Dov. So I don't see any more hands up, so I'll go ahead and read the next couple paragraphs then. Guilt, then, is an all-pervasive sense of alienation, isolation, and helplessness that remains with us from the moment of birth to our death. It reminds us that we are helpless and vulnerable creatures who walk in terror midst a world that threatens to attack and even annihilate us at any moment. Guilt, therefore, includes not only those things we have done or said that we believe were wrong, quote, I feel guilty because I did such and such, end quote, but in all pervasive sense of being wrong. Thus, the antecedent condition of guilt is the belief there is something inherently unfit or sinful about us, a state for which we must always feel guilty and which the ego tells us can never be undone. Once we feel guilty, it is equally impossible not to feel deserving of punishment for what we have done wrong and to fear the form this punishment will take. All fear has its origin in guilt over the separation, believing we have attacked our Creator by opposing Him. We must also believe that He is justified in attacking us in return. Guilt demands no less than this punishment at the hands of an avenging Father. The dynamic is summarized this way in the Course. And then I'll read, it has a little quote from the Course from the manual. The thought of separation from God states, in the clearest form possible, that the mind which believes it has a separate will that can oppose the will of God also believes it can succeed. That this can hardly be a fact is obvious, yet that it can be believed as fact is equally obvious. And herein lies the birthplace of guilt. Who usurps the place of God and takes it for himself now has a deadly, quote, enemy, end quote. And he must stand alone in his protection and make himself a shield to keep him safe from fury that can never be abated, and vengeance that can never be satisfied. And that's from the manual in the Course 17:5, 3 through 9. So that right there on the guilt is totally going in line with Ken said about the birth process and being inside the womb. And then from Genesis and the Garden of Eden and the separation and all the guilt. So would anyone like to comment on this? Karen, go ahead.
Yeah, I just like the that he's reminding us that it's thus the antidote condition of guilt is the belief there is something inherently unfit or sinful about us, but it's just a belief. And that's what I like to be reminded of. It's just a belief. It's not the truth. Thanks. And that's where the forgiveness comes in. And that's why this book is so helpful because it's undoing that guilt and that belief in
Right.
the sin and in the separation. Thanks.
Yes, that was perfect. That's so true. And that's where this book is really important in undoing the belief. And in the separation and the guilt that we're all carrying in that belief. And this book's really important in that. And it's unconscious. And so it's it's unconscious within all of us. So it's layers, and it's a process of undoing. Gloria, go ahead, please.
Yeah, it was just coming to me last week. Were you guys discussing the little turtles and bringing them to the ocean so that the birds don't get them? Was that in this class
Yes,
last
yes.
week?
Uh-huh. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
in Ken's book. Uh-huh.
Well, it actually came, I actually did do that once, and it's a tremendous experience. So, like, when it doesn't mean that we don't do anything on the level of the world. The idea is that we recognize all healing is of the mind. But if we're guided to help baby turtles get into the ocean, it doesn't matter because we're getting back to that recognition that there is no good, there is no evil, there is no right or wrong, except for the meaning that we place upon it here. So it's always our an opportunity to say, I don't know what anything is for, and I need do nothing, but to move it back to that reliance on spirit where we're always following that inner guide. So spirit, what should I do? What should I say? Where should I go? And to whom should I say anything? And when we, recognize if you're guided to assist the little baby turtles into the ocean, like that's okay. It's not like anything here is right or wrong. That recognition that we have given it all the meaning that it holds for us, and that recognition that everything we seemingly see ultimately is meaningless once we accept our divinity as a Christ. So, and that's our job, the atonement. Thanks.
Thank you, Gloria. And that was really nice how you brought that up about the turtles. And to experience that, to be helpful, you'll be guided to do the right thing. And it's a wonderful feeling to feel that love, that reflection of love by guiding and helping save the little turtle's life. And we also have to accept that within this world of form that there's the birds that eat the turtles, and they need their food too. So so it's a constant cycle, but you'll just be guided to do the right thing. And it to me, when I do the right thing, it makes me feel good, and it makes me happy. So thank you. Karen, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Gloria, and thanks, Michale. And yeah, that's the key to everything. It's, when he says, I need do nothing, it's I need do nothing on my own. It's listening to that voice, it's listening to the Holy Spirit, and that is so beautiful. And that's the intuition for me. It's the intuition. And what I'm also thinking about here is the guilt and how, the secret of salvation comes in for me too with this, how to recognize that, you know, I am making a decision. I am never upset for the reason I think, as I said earlier, with the depression and everything else, feelings. But in the dreamer of the dream, he says that once you were unaware of what the cause of everything the world appeared to thrust upon you, uninvited and unasked must really be. Of one thing you were sure, of all the many causes you perceived as bringing pain and suffering to you, your guilt was not among them, nor did you in any way request them for yourself. This is how all illusions came about. The one who makes them does not see himself as making them, and their reality does not depend on him. Whatever cause they have is something quite apart from him, and what he sees is separate from his mind. This is part of the level confusion we were talking about. He cannot doubt the dream's reality because he does not see the part he plays in making them and making them seem real. So it's putting that belief in the thoughts, in the guilt, in the self-hatred, and that self-hatred that, when I don't forgive it, I don't look at it, and then I project it out, and then I'm blaming someone else, and it's that vicious cycle of attack, defense, attack, defense. So it's actually recognizing that the cause of everything is the guilt. And that I am doing this to myself. I have to look at my part because the ego wants to keep us mindless so we don't look at it. And, he does not see the part he plays in making them seem real. No one can waken from a dream. The world is dreaming for him. So it gives us that power back, it gives us that power back that recognize that, I can make another decision. This is not what I want, and recognize that I am never upset for the reason I think. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. That was really nice sharing, Karen. And yeah, we're never upset for the reason that we think, and just to remain at peace, to step back and look at it. So I think this is a good place to end. We're over the hour now. So if that's okay with you, Karen and Lynn, um, if anyone else would like to share before I end it with a poem from Dr. Helen Schuckman. No? Okay. So I'm going to read, since we in the chapter 1, we went over the birthing process and the Garden of Eden, and also Ken bringing up the expulsion from inside the womb and it representing paradise to the fetus. I thought it would be appropriate to read. It's called Birthday, and it's on page 85 of The Gifts of God from Dr. Helen Schuckman. Birthday. You neither come nor go, for even here your star is fixed within a little range that holds its brightness still without a change until a brighter light starts to appear. Fixed stars are guideposts to the earthly goal, pointing out pathways, avenues of hope, and pitfalls of despair. Their little scope is merged into the grandeur of the whole. They do not vanish as the sun appears, but add their little shining to the sum of promise of return. They seem to come as resting points against a world of fears. Only your little light was born today, helping in darkness to await the sun and be enveloped in the risen one when you have done his will along the way. Birthday, The Gifts of God, poems from Dr. Helen Schuckman. Thank you.
Thanks, you guys. What a wonderful sharing this morning. And I'm just so grateful for you all showing up. And just also wanted to mention that uh, I do have and Prudence plays on Sundays, a really beautiful series by Kurt Morrow, where he is reading this book, Forgiveness in Jesus, with a group. And it's, yeah. I mean, this is a really, and it's really funny because they always talk about which edition everybody has. If you have this edition, it's on this page. If you have this edition, it's on this page. So just like you guys.
Is he reading that now, Len?
Oh no, he's passed away years
Oh,
ago.
I mean, I
Um,
mean, I mean, I know, but I mean,
oh
on Sunday mornings, is he reading
no,
that
I
now?
think she's doing there's a couple of series that she has. I don't think it's the Forgiveness in Jesus one, but
Okay.
Right now, I think she's doing the Song of Prayer.
the Song of Prayer. That's right. You're right. Absolutely. And I'll play that sometimes during the day so people can hear Kurt because most of the time, it's just during the night that people get to hear him. So, and what a wonderful teacher of A Course in Miracles he is and was also. So, anyway, thanks, you guys. I love you all. So good to see your smiley faces. And we'll see you back here in a couple hours for Joel Goldsmith's.